Zoom dah masuk lah. Dah try lah Zoom. Okay. Cukup tak? Dia punya 4.
A very good morning and salam keluarga Malaysia. Respected Dr. Rizal Khairi Ahmad, the Chief Executive Officer of Nano Malaysia Berhad, our moderator for the session, our respected speaker, and the panelists, senior officers from the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, my fellow colleagues and officers, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to our forum session for this lovely morning, which brings the theme Convergence of Technology and Society, the Journey Towards a High-Tech Nation. For your kind information, this forum is being held in conjunction of the launching ceremony of 5 technology roadmaps, which will be held later today. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed further, let me introduce our moderator for the session today. Please bear with me because this will take some time. Yeah? Dr. Rizal Khairi Ahmad is the Chief Executive Officer of Nano Malaysia Berhad, which is also an agency under the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. He was appointed as the Chief Executive Officer in January of 2013 under a secondment from Hazanah National started in June 2012. On top of being the Chief Architect of Nano Malaysia Group business model, corporate structure and unique venture builder investment program, he is also a board member of Nano Malaysia, founding director of Nano Commerce Sdn Berhad, founding chairman of Nano Verify Sdn Berhad, and founding director of Nano Vision Ventures Sdn Berhad. Dr. Rizal holds a PhD in nanotechnology, electronic electrical engineering from the London Centre for Nanotechnology, University College London, as the first Hazanah PhD scholar from the year 2007 to 2010, with publication in high-impact journals. He is also a member of the Board of Governance for Malaysia Laboratories for Academia Business, collaborations with also known as MyLab, and adjunct professor of the University Technology Malaysia, and recently appointed as the Vice President of Asia Nano Forum for the term of 2022 to 2024. China Graphene Industry Alliance appointed Dr. Rizal as the international consultant as a recognition for his work in developing and leading the execution of the National Graphene Action Plan 2020. His current ventures include hydrogen economy, energy storage, electric vehicles, and the Internet of Nano Things applications for the relevant sectors in Malaysia and global market. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is an impressive CV indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our moderator, respected Dr. Rizal Khairi Ahmad, for the session today. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. MC. There's quite a lengthy biography. That reminds me to give you a shorter version. The attention should be given to the perspective and esteemed panelists over here. But before that, Assalamualaikum, good morning everyone. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure indeed to taking the role of moderator. I just got back from New York on Sunday, so if I'm jet lagging, stammering, or not doing pretty well, I have to issue my apology in advance. Without much further ado, looking at the forum today, the title says Convergence of Technology and Society, Journey Towards High-Tech Nation. What does it truly mean? Convergence of technology means it's a confluence of everything that we do in Malaysia in terms of transforming ourselves, leaping ourselves into a high-tech nation. Not only that, but also becoming a high-income nation. Because technology is not a be-all and all. Technology is just a tool to get there. The real outcome and end game is we are happy, we are high income, we are sustainable. That's the real story. But to get there, the tool is technology. Every civilization throughout the history of mankind, so to speak, there's always going to be something which sparked the revolution. There have been 4 industrial revolutions thus far. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. We're going through a 4th industrial revolution, all about smartness, connectivity, and whatnot. But nonetheless, it's a tool to become what we wish to be. So today's session, reflecting to what will be post-launch in terms of launching the 5 roadmaps. This is reflected by the decorated panelists on stage here. We have over here Mr. Kamalo, who is the founder and CEO of Paradigm Group. The reflection. We will cover the topic of mind shaping innovation culture and paradigm shift. Next we will be Dr. Xiao Weikan, Acting Chief Executive Officer, Car Medical Director, Sunway Medical Center. Next will be technologist Ketulitan Kia Rohman, very energizing person, I must say. Chief Digital and Information Officer at Civil Perla. Fresh of breath air, Dr. Agriza Amira, Women in AI Ambassador at Malaysia, also Senior AI Engineer. That we have your board. Last but not least, Mr. Jiang Li, General Manager of GrabJet Technology. So the composition of the panel today shall be reflecting what is going to come post-launch, which is the launch of the 5. And to allow that to happen, the managed expedition today, there will be presentation each from the managed member. We cover 10 minutes each. And since there are 5 of them, 5 times 10, 50 minutes. The forum today will cover roughly about 2 hours. So give and take 1 hour for the presentation to change hands, change mic, whatnot. 1 full hour for Q&A, and to also get the audience to be participating in some of the pertinent topics. We would like to get you involved. Because this is not about us, it's also about you. Because one thing for sure, technology is not for the elite. Technology should be democratized. It should be owned by everyone, every layer of the society. At the end of the day, we want to empower the citizenry of Malaysia, the population of Malaysia, to ensure that everyone has a slice of the cake. And the slice of the cake will only grow in time, provided that we are able to empower ourselves with technological equity, leading towards technological sovereignty, not security, sovereignty, meaning that we own what we design, we own what we ideate, and we can scale up, commercialize, and become independent. Also, we need to also work with others. We should work inside. But at the end of the day, Malaysia needs to stand on our own two feet. COVID-19 exposed the weakness in the global supply chain. 2020-21, we saw certain things which could not be imported to Malaysia. So hopefully, through the presentation of these 5 esteemed centers, we're able to dig down, we're able to expand, and into lateral and vertical opportunity to see where Malaysia is healthy. Without much further ado, I will give you a brief introduction about who
Saya tak naik dah, saya tahu
this
dulu.
Mr. Kamaro
Ah,
A. Mohammed. He's the founder and the group CEO of Nano Improvement.
bisa dekat atas.
It's a Malaysian-based drone solution provider that's
Saya
ranked
atas,
number one
saya dekat atas.
global drone service provider ranking by drone industry inside Germany. In terms of recognitions and awards, he has received Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year 2020, EY Technology Entrepreneur of the Year 2020 Malaysia, SME Entrepreneur Resource Award Entrepreneur of the Year 2020. TechNote Global Startup Leader of the Year 2021, is a member of Forbes Council listed Bachelor Asia. Very impressive. So without much further ado, over to you.
Thank you very much. When I was first invited, when I saw the title, let me just share something. Harvard Business Review did a study in 2020. Out of 1.3 trillion of digital transformation exercise, 900 billion actually goes to waste. Right? So that's actually a very startling statistics. Right? So that to me, it tells me that the whole thing about all of this technology that we talk about is actually about people. It's less about the technology itself. So that's why for me, can you guys hear me? Yeah. So it's really about mindset shift that is needed for us to make that difference in society. So when we talk about, Dr. Rizal, you talk about industrial revolution, right? And what we are now heading, we are in industrial 4.0, but 5.0 is very clear, very near, very close to us already. Right? So when we look at it, one of the things that worries me so much. Can we go back to one slide here that we have this? When we look at another startling statistics in Malaysia is where only 72% of our talent, our human resource, studies only up to SPM. That's actually a worry. Here we are talking about high income nation. Here we are talking about innovation and all that. That is actually a very worrying statistics. And less than actually 5.8% actually goes out of the education system altogether. This is something that we really need to change. Remember, 900 billion goes to waste. Again, when we look at it, this is a very aspect. Einstein, can you go to the next slide? Einstein actually says, right, we cannot solve the problem that we have today using the same mindset that created the problem in the first place. So for us to be creative, for us to be an innovator, we have to think different. How can we think differently if we are not equipping ourselves to think for the future, to be brave enough to think for the future? So I will share, I only have 10 minutes, I will share how we do it in our organization at the very least, but I think this is my way, I'm trying to put a wake-up call here, that we need to think differently. Right. So just a little bit about, next please, just a little bit about things that needs to be done in order to change things. Let's take an example. Of course, I love the country, I love our country, I'm very patriotic, I spent 10 years in the UK, I came back on the call, on my purpose is to help build this country, the country that I love, right? So, but still, when I look at some countries, I feel, why is it we can't be like that? Let's take a look at Norway, for example, the most inclusive country in the world, where every single, and we have an office there as well, right? If you were to look at Norway, every single citizen is at least a quarter million. Everybody is well educated. They have the best education in the world. What have they done right? Simple. They make a decision that Norway is for Norwegian, and every execution of that is to preserve that. Right? So the answer here is that genuine leadership, long-term decision will make a difference. Next, please. Let's take a look at even Korea. Korea in the 70s is the same as Malaysia. Our GDP, which is like less than $100 per month, is the same. Korea, you know where the Korea are, right? What have they done right? Education. They have some of the best education system in the world, right? Remember the statistic that I shared earlier? Is meant to shock us. 70% doesn't even go past O level. That's a very good thing. So we really
need to change this thing. If you don't change this, we have no hope for the future. We need to look at this very, very seriously. So now, let me talk about how we do things at Robotics. We actually, the drone is just a front. We are actually a data company. So we use drone data to actually disrupt the industry. So our mission is actually to advance humanity through drone intelligence. So from day one, when I set up the company about 7 years ago, I faced big challenge because I want to make this as a Malaysian company. How do we disrupt industry growth? So the way we did this was actually, again, to change mindset. Right? So that's how we do this is we provide digital transformation. We provide a solution for agriculture. We have food security issue in Malaysia. How do we use our technology to do that? Today, we have proven that we can increase yield by up to 30%. For one customer, for example, in the palm industry, we save them more than 200 million in just 1 year by doing precision agriculture. So anyway, again, it's about making real impact. Next, please. Right? So that's what we do. Again, just a bit of a snapshot of our operations globally. We have offices in 12 countries, with operations in 35. We are about 900 people, closing to 1,000. We are 7.5-year-old company. Next, please. Right, that's how we started. You know, in 2015, 311 with 3 people in one office, one country. Today, we are in 2022. We are 1,000 in 12 countries and operations in 35. This happened through mindset shift. Of course, there's a lot of technology investment, but it's really, really important. Next, please. Right. In terms of data capability, as I mentioned, the main thing about what we do here is about data, because we couldn't build everything in Malaysia. We have operations all over the world. We have an office in India, we have an office in Pakistan, we have an office in Vietnam as well that do development for everything. Of course, the core one is actually in Malaysia as well. And I want to change that. I want to make this a Malaysian centric development, but that's not enough. At least for the time being, we start doing it out there as well. Again, it's about how do we build this talent that can build world-class solutions. So how do we drive mindset change? There's a lot of things over there. I don't have much time, but the main thing that I'm going to talk about is aligning purpose. And I'm just going to end this on this slide. There's more slides over there. Aligning purpose is the most important. How do you bring your people to believe in what you do? Let me share you my personal purpose. How do I then align my personal purpose and my organization's purpose? You know, I come from a middle class working family. You know, I see a lot of poverty around me. So when Mara gave me an opportunity to go and study in the UK, I had accepted some study. You know, staying there for 10 years, I wanted to come back and change it. I want to change the country. So my purpose is actually to create jobs, to create a socio-economic well-being of our fellow Malaysians. That is very much in line with our organization's national purpose as well. And to me, that is key to us being able to grow so far. I think with that, thank you very much.
Oh, I expected you to cover the full 10 minutes, but you managed to do it over 7 minutes.
Yeah, we will cover more in the Q&A.
Yeah. Appreciate that. So we move on to the next presenter. We have Mr. Xiao Weikan, which is the CEO cum Medical Director of Sun Medical Center. A bit of a background about himself. Dr. Xiao is a trained specialist in clinical care medicine and emergency medicine and credential with leadership in management by Harvard Medical School President. As an emergency physician, he has 80 years of working experience overseas and locally of various hospitals. In June 2016, Dr. Xiao joined Sunway Medical Center as head of accident and emergency, and he was promoted to the position of Deputy Medical Director in 2019 in April. Later in March 2020, he was appointed as Medical Director when he successfully led COVID-19 task force in setting clinical guidelines and practices to keep patients, consultants, and policies. In July 2022, just last month, he was promoted to the position of Chief Executive Officer of Sunway Medical Center. Okay, the stage is yours. Over to you.
Thank you. Good morning. Yeah. Thank you for having me today. I would say that today is a very different forum to me because I think the target audience are totally different from what we have presented before. The previous that they experience is most on the medical students, the medical officers, the specialists, or the healthcare industry. Today is totally different. I heard from the moderators, actually, we have the policy makers, we have those I think from the industry, it's totally different. So I would like to conclude on what Kamaru said just now. I would like to drive a mindset change, I think, in the healthcare industry. Perhaps I think many people here actually don't understand more about the healthcare industry. Today, I think we need to have a mindset change. In the past, I think we would think that, okay, all the operations, all the surgeries in the hospital will be done by doctors using their bare hands. But the landscape has changed. We see something very different in the past 10 to 20 years. So why Sunway Medical Center would like to embark in the robotic-assisted joint replacement surgery? Okay, next slide. I give you a little bit background of the Sunway Medical Center. Now, I think the hospital established in November 1999. Actually, I think currently we have 616 beds, and then 186 are consultants, that means are specialists, 60 critical beds available, and then 14 operating theaters. So I think within a few months' time, we are going to have another 3 blocks coming up. Will become a 1,000-bed hospital, which will be the largest private hospital not only in Malaysia, but also in the region. Actually, last week I just visited the best hospital in Bangkok. Actually, it's the Mammogram and also the Sariki Dash. Actually, our size is much bigger than them already. And then we want to make Malaysia proud of this. Yeah. This is also one of the reasons that with such a big size of a hospital, we need to advance ourselves on the technologies and even on the robots. Next slide. So for the definition of the robot, actually is defined as a machine that resembles living creatures in being able, to perform a very complex procedures repetitively. So that's why our science ministry, I think, targets the ratios of the 195 robots to 10,000 workers by the year of 2030. So robots in the industry, they can use to do the repetitive works, more precise, and then can work in the very unsuitable environments. It can decrease the unit's production time and also decrease the need for the manpower. The most important is with a very predictable outcome. Next slide. So the robotic in the healthcare industry, actually, we can see a numbers of the users already, I would say. I think the most famous one probably to all the audience here probably is the Da Vinci. Yeah. Sunway Medical Center actually acquired the first Da Vinci machine in Malaysia here in year 2016. Okay, Da Vinci. If you have ever watched it through the YouTube, now in China, because China now is very good in AR, in 5G, they can do the remote surgery using the Da Vinci. Yeah. Because now the world is facing the shortage of specialists in certain areas. So for those patients, I think, who stay in the rural areas, probably the surgery can be done remotely by the specialists who stay in a very big hospital. Earlier this year, actually, we acquired the latest version of the Da Vinci for the hospital. So we are the only hospital now have the 2 Da Vinci system to operate on the patients, which can achieve a more precise result. Next. This is something I think we need to have a mindset change, like what mentioned by Kamaru just now. Now we can use the robot, I think, in the surgical fields, such as the urology, the prostate surgeries, the general surgery, even for the lung, even for the colon surgery. We can use the robot for the surgery. And then not to mention about the gynecology, remove the uterus, actually can achieve a much better result. And then in the past 2 to 3 years, actually we embarked on using the robots in the orthopedic areas. So the main advantages of using the robots actually is about the safety. And then it can achieve a better precision. And then this is a minimally invasive surgery. That means it costs less bleeding, less pain, also decrease of the hospital stay and faster recovery. There's another revolution, actually, is the gamma knife. Gamma knife for the brain surgery. You just imagine, I think a few years ago, before the gamma knife really comes into the industry, you have to open your skull and then to take out the tumors and then put in the drain, admit the patient to the ICU for 2 days, step down to the normal wards, and then probably only 1 to 2 weeks later, you can discharge from the hospital. Like the latest technology gamma knife we are having in our hospital here, actually can be a daycare surgery. The patient just came to the hospital, just lie down, listen to the very nice music, and then we shoot the radiation inside the tumor. The patient can be discharged afternoon or the next day. So all these technologies is a game changer in the industry. Next. So why robotic in the joint replacement surgery? Our core strategy actually is to adopt the latest medical technologies and innovations to deliver the best clinical outcome for the patient. Like all Malaysians here, I think we must always stay in forefront of the technological innovations. This is something very important. And then we, as Sunway Medical Center, we want to be the referral center for those I think who are keen to come for the robotic surgery. We also want to expand all the clinical applications and then also to overcome the surgical complexity of the major surgeries. So the robotic assisted surgery actually is proven to have a better outcome, which is much superior to the traditional or conventional surgery we have done before. This is a very important mindset to change. I remember very well, I think a few years ago, when we tried to introduce the robotics assisted surgery even to our consultants, and then people have a doubt about it. Wow, this is about surgery, it's about people's life. How can we use a robot on the patient? Yeah, we have the bare hands, our hands can control much better, But now, after we use the robots, I think the perception, the mindset totally changed. Because later on, I will show you the results, how best the results can achieve by the robots. Next slide. So why robotic in the joint replacement surgery? Because one of the most difficult aspects in the joint replacement surgery is to consistently to place the implants in the replaced joint in the ideal position to make sure that the joint is well aligned and then meshed together for the improved function and also the outcome. You just imagine, let's say if the surgeon's already 60 or 70s, I think as human beings, our hand will start to, little bit shaky, But the robot won't, The robots will put in the implants precisely in the position you want. This is the difference. Next slide. So the aim of the robotics in the joint replacement actually is to create a patient precision or create a pre-surgical plan. That means before the surgery, we can use the robot, we can use the system, the AI system, to design the plan, the surgical plan for the patient. And then during the surgery, we can change, and then we can modify the plan according to the patients, to the individual patients. And then it can achieve a predictable and reproducible outcome. These are very important words. It's a predictable and reproducible outcome for the patients. That means the standard is the same across all the patients. Next. So how does it work? So before the surgeries, actually, the slide haven't come out. Yeah. So I think we will use a CT scan to do the 3D imaging for the joint. After that, we'll do the planning, and then we'll do the balancing of the dynamic joint. So during the surgery, we register the anatomy of the patients into the module, into the system. And then the robotic arm will help the surgeon to cut on the bone without injure the surrounding healthy tissue. This is very important. So that's why it causes less bleeding, less pain for the patient. Next. So on 1st of July 2021, actually is the first robot-assisted total hip replacement in Malaysia here. Actually, it's done by our orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Chua Hua Sen. And then the patient can step on the ground on the day when the patient finished the surgery. Next. So currently we have two systems in our hospital here. One is the MECO robotic system, another one is the ROSA system. Actually, MECO already founded in 2004. It's the first robotic surgeries in the world, I would say. And then ROSA, I think, just get the approval from FDA in 2019. Now we are using these two robots for the surgery. Next. So the benefits, actually we can achieve more accurate results. As you can see from all these studies here, actually the results is very, very promising and also convincing for people to use the robot for the surgeries. The survivorship, that means how long the implants can survive in the plants, actually can achieve 97%. Yeah, if compared to roughly 90% of the traditional way of doing the surgery. Next. Okay, this is a very important slide I would like to share. Okay, so we have achieved, I think, 260 surgeries in the past 1 year. Okay, as you can see, for the yellow colors, actually is the total knee replacement, and then for the blue color is the total hip replacement. 98.4% of the patients who underwent the total knee replacement, and the 100% of the patients who underwent the total hip replacement, actually they can achieve their first walk within 24 hours. And then on day 14, 74% of the patients and 82% of the patients, they come to the clinic without any aids, without any crutches, without any phlegm, you know. This is totally different from the conventional way of doing the surgeries. So this is a very, very good result. Next. These are the orthopedic surgeons. Next. For the future, we believe that the robotic surgeries will continue to show the improved outcome, and then it will become more widely used in the future. It will be even to use in the brain, the spine, and traumatic surgery, such as all the what we call the bone fractures. I really concur what Kamaru said just now. We need to change our mindset. Yeah, the futures of the healthcare industry probably will be driven by the robots. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Xiao. I give you a bit of a due time because courtesy of Encik Kamaru. You have to thank him. I need coffee after this. Anyhow, I have an issue with my knee. How can I get it fixed? I played years and years of basketball.
Yeah, actually, according to statistics, I think roughly 2,000 over people need to have a knee replacement surgery on annual basis. You know.
And you're buying knee.
Yeah. So that's why I encourage you. Probably, I think later on you can send your number to me. I will arrange for that.
Hopefully complimentary.
Yeah, definitely.
I can be your living advertisement. I can be an influencer.
Yes. Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Next to present will be technologist Tengku Intan Natia. She is the Chief Digital and Information Officer of Sri Lanka. She has extensive experience and reach with more than 27 years in a combination of IT, digital, and business domains. The area of expertise is to provide advisory services in strategic and tactical leadership, executing digital transformation roadmap for a short and long-term implementation plan. She has experience in working in both public and private sectors such as Syrian, Shell, Iskandar Investment Berhad, Mining Berhad, Nesiniaga, and Malaysia airports, holding position from IT executives all the way to C-suite level. Currently, she holds the position of Chief Digital and Information Officer at Syrian Berhad. He is also an adjunct professor at UNITA International University. So over to you, the mic is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning to all of you. The topic that I choose for today, next slide, it's only one slide, is democratize the use of technology. The reason why I take this topic because we have a limited resources for everyone in this country and everyone in the company. Limited resources, that means no funding, short of talent, and many other things, short of leaderships, and short of technology, so a lot of things. But how are we going to resolve all of this? Because for us to move towards a high-tech nation, we need to be innovative country. So in order for us to be innovative, we can't afford to have only a limited people to be innovative. We need everyone to be innovative. So we need to use the technology for us to do this. So in essence, technology democratization is actually to enable the grassroots of innovations. So this new decentralized is actually people not liking it because it's actually taking away a lot of positions and power. But it's enable everyone to free to innovate, free to do whatever they want to do in terms of how to improve things in a company or in a nation. So how are we going to do this? The technology itself, we have a lot of, we have seen it, we have drones, we have robotics, we have augmented reality, AI, and a lot of any emerging technologies that is going to be in the mainstream. So for the users, actually, these interfaces of technologies is getting easier and easier for them to use. So with the great democratization in mind, you can have enablers like natural language processing, low-code, no-code platform, robotic process automation for you to do a lot of things in a very short of time, in a very, very easy to do it. So for example, in Syrian, we experimental hackathon, and also Dr. Fairoza also did that. We use, you know, in a lot of government agencies, we have aging population, right? We have a lot of people not liking to do a lot of things and not liking to innovate a lot of things. So it happens in Syria, we have a lot of that, all right? So what we did is we do Syrian hackathon, we call it Syrian Hack, and we introduce low-code and no-code platform, and we get the technicians, the oldies to participate and make it fun. And they came on board, and this is being done in PKP and MCO, 100% online. You know, you have to do at your home. Some of them are while cooking and start developing the low-code, no-code platform. And within 2 days, they can actually come up with the workflows and automations, and this is good. And because of this experiment, I would say that in order for us to do this for our nation, we can have three simplicity kind of summarize: fast, easy, and support. What it means by fast, you need to teach them how to do it faster. You need to give tools that they can actually access it faster. So talk about the infrastructure and all those things, maybe some of the panels will talk about that. And we need to have an accelerated learning. We cannot have a learning that, you know, 1, 2, 3. You need to get them, you need to trust them to do all these things learning by themselves. And it can be done, you know, we tried it, can be done. The old folks, not the younger one, the old folks. Okay? And we need technologies that are easy to be used, you know, and you need to have that accessibility to the technology. So during the online PKP MCO, we have cloud-based application, no-code platform. They can access it during their anytime, 24/7. They can do whatever it is, and they need to have the right support. So we need the folks that go to the universities and learning about all those things and teach them how to do it in a better way and a faster way and in a fun way. It shouldn't be boring. A lot of people teaching so boring. 1, 2, 3, very boring. So we need to make it fun. We have a DJ that actually make the moderator to be fun, and they actually get excited. So there is hope, okay? We are not short of talent, but we can use existing talent and make it then innovative. Thank you.
Wow, that's really, really short and sweet. Yeah.
I need my time stops.
You see the KISS, keep it short and sweet. So you managed to do that and cover those topics. I think you delivered the point emphatically within a very short period of time, just under 5 minutes. Quite impressive. So let's save the fun bit in the Q&A session. So we will allow for the next progression, which is Dr. Fairoza Amira Binti Hamza. She is a senior AI engineer, previously a data scientist in ST Microelectronics this year, leading various data science projects, and the winner of Women in the ICT Awards, ASEAN 2021, under the Rising Star category, and the only Malaysian that won this award. Congratulations. previously worked as a machine learning engineer at Latin's Singapore, Malaysia, and assistant professor at Kyoto College of Graduate Studies for Informatics, Japan. Research interests include not limited to computer vision, data science, and machine deep learning. I presented various papers and works in journals and conferences. So over to you, Farisa.
Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. So it's taking like quite a long time that I didn't speak face to face to everyone. Usually I just give a talk online. So as you see, like I have a lot of like affiliations. So practically I'm currently working as senior AI engineer in Toro. It's the only social media company for the crypto, so and blockchain. And then I'm also the Women in AI ambassador for Malaysia. So we established the Women in AI last 2 years during the MCO. And then previously also established in Japan. And Women in AI has already expanded to the whole Asia Pacific region, including Singapore, Myanmar, Taiwan, Australia. And then I'm also the co-founder of my own startup, which is AI Technologies. So as you know, Tengku Itan is talking about democratizing technology. So I would like to talk about the inclusive AI. So that's the main reason I think why I'm here as a Women AI ambassador, as the co-founder of the AI Tech for Everyone, and of course to make sure that everyone can leverage the AI technology together. So basically when Dr. Seo is talking about robotics in healthcare, so 10 years ago I dreamed to build the robot for medical. But then as I grow and study further in Japan, then I not developing the robots, but I'm researching on the medical imaging. So my PhD thesis actually is on medical imaging. So whatever you're talking just now, I actually can relate to that. Yeah. Okay. So can you move to the next slide? Okay, so this is a little bit about me. I don't need to explain a lot further. So I basically have my study in Japan for about 7 years, all the way from degree, master, PhD. And after that, I just joined the Kyoto College of Graduate Studies of Informatics as assistant professor. So I basically switched from academics to industry because I'm the hungry young people that always want new knowledge. So in academics, I think it's not satisfying my craving. So that's why I joined the industry. So upon coming back to Malaysia, actually I did the research group in Corona Tracker. So we fight the COVID-19 with data actually. And after that, we established the Women in AI Malaysia to have a towards inclusive AI. And then after that, I joined along the way industry in manufacturing, marketplace, and blockchain industry as well. So that's a little bit about me. Can you go to the next slide? Okay. So I would like to tell you about the story of inclusive AI. So can you go to the next slide? So our company mostly is having a slogan of AI tech for data. So data is the future. I think everyone really can comprehend with this, right? Because data is just like, if you have a lot of data, you can do a lot of things with that. So that's why people are afraid of data. As I'm currently working in a social media company, so basically I can see everyone's data. But don't worry, I'm not going to leak your data. So feel free to use it. So there's a very fast new germ that we have, and we can do so many things with that. Can you go to the next slide? Okay. Artificial intelligence is powerful, produced by the insightful data. So that's why I think Encik Kamarul having a data technology drone company, right? Because it's powerful with the insightful data. Can you go to the next slide? But it requires extensive skills in maths and programming. And not everyone likes maths. Not everyone likes programming. So when we want to make AI for everyone, continue to the next slide. What if, next, we can develop the AI without single line of code? So this is what Tengku Itan is doing to their boomers colleague in Siri, which is building the AI, the machine learning, by using a no-code and low-code platform. So that's why actually we are the first company in Malaysia, AI Technologies, we are building the AI, which is without the programming technique, supports all type of data from end to end and support all machine learning model. This is because 70% of AI project actually just left at POC level. In my experience of working in 2 years in the field in industry and leading the data science team in manufacturing, the project just left at POC. After that, it doesn't see the lights of going to the production. Why it's happening? Because we have very, very few skills that can actually put it into the production. Like, you know, they're democratizing the technology. We don't really have the full support. So that's why we need the support. And that's the one more thing. And the next thing, the talent plus the expertise. So that's why we are doing this so that we can have a more inclusive AI. So next slide, please. And the next thing I would like to introduce is our non-profit organization. And I actually have my colleague from Women in AI here that come together. And this is our first time meeting face-to-face after the 2 years of pandemic. So it's a very nice organization where actually we can gather together and have a support. Because women is fragile, and usually behind every successful woman is their support system. Okay, let me introduce what is Women in AI. So our core values are diversity and inclusion, empower and support, responsible AI, equality, correct conversion. Talking about equality, actually, we women doesn't really want to, to have the most equal one. We want equity actually, meaning like you give something to the right person, to the right support. So that's why we women, we don't really okay, I just want to become like a man. No, it's not like that. We just want to empower ourselves so that we can stand alone and we can become a part of the society. Especially in AI, if you don't have the diversity and inclusion in AI, what's happened to your data? You're going to have a very biased data. Like if you do a facial recognition, and then maybe actually in our company we did this the skin, the age and the gender classification of the face. And then because we have very lack of female data that is wearing scarf, so when I try this application, 1/7 says that I'm female, the rest I'm male. Why? Because I'm wearing the hijab. So that's why actually we need to have a more inclusive AI so that we can eliminate this bias in the artificial intelligence. I'm not going to talk what is bias in machine learning because it's going to be very technical. So basically we have a bias in machine learning as well. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. So what is it? Okay, so basically we have yearly annual event that is a very big summit. Last year we did with them and sponsored by Microsoft as well. And then last 2 years also we have a Women AI Global Summit where we do a 24 hours conferences from Asia Pacific, EMEA, and goes to the US continent. And it's a very nice event. And we also did the hackathon. So Teguh Intan is doing the hackathon in her company for 2 days I think. But we did it this one. We give them a short course, 2 hours on how to build everything, and then give the mentoring, and after that we give them 3 to 4 hours, mingle with very different people, which is not the one that you really know, and then after 3 hours they need to present to us their solution. So basically we have the why hackathon, and we give a lot of topics to them, and mostly we give it this or free of charge, and we are going to do it in November with the UITM. So feel free to join. And then other than that, we also did Why Talk, Why Accelerate, where we create more entrepreneurs in the AI field. Someone that is very rare like me, I think. I joined Why Accelerate in November 2020, and that's how I founded my company. And then at that time, I'm the only participant from Malaysia. The rest are from European and I think Australia continents. And then we also have publication. We also have a conference of gender, diversity and inclusion in AI in Jinkai. I think it's just finished last month. And just if you just want to join us, regardless you are female or male, feel free to browse through the womeninai.co and register as a member. So a little bit of promotion, regardless of the gender. Okay, that's I think next slide please. So together towards inclusive AI. I think that's all from me. So the final slide will be follow me. Final slide, next slide please. Okay. Last but not least, let's have the AI tag for everyone. Follow me in Twitter and LinkedIn. So yes, you can connect with me all the time then. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. I think we have these two very empowered women, And I beg to differ. Women are not fragile. They can be as strong as they can be. Look at our mothers, they raised us to where we are now. It takes a really, really strong individual to make that happen. So I beg to differ. Women are not fragile. I'm sure all of you would agree with me, right? Right? Yeah. Last but not least would be Mr. Jiang Lin. He is the General Manager of GraphJet Technologies Netherlands. His education, he holds a bachelor's degree from Lancaster University in accounting and finance. And his current portfolio, of course, being the GM, and previously the Director of Advanced DC Marketing Netherlands. So a brief background about who GraphJet is. It was incorporated in 2019. And there's an expectation to open its first manufacturing plant to produce graphene in the Bintulu district of Sarawak State in the very near future. So without much ado, last but not least, over to you, Mr. Jiang. Show us the magic of graphene.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rizal. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, panelists. I am Jiang from GraphJet Technologies in Democratize. So, as if you heard of one of the viral posts in Facebook or Instagram, that if Wakanda has vibranium, Malaysia has graphene. That post is actually belongs to us, that relates to us. That's referring to our company, GraphJet Technology. So actually, our company is, next slide please. Next slide please. Yes. So, next. So basically, our company has been targeted by one of the spec company from USA, and our company had just recently announced that on the 1st of August, we are undergoing a de-spec process at the valuation of $1.38 billion US dollar, that we are going to list our company in USD and SEC. Thank you. So hopefully this project will bring Malaysia to elevate ourselves into another level. So basically, what are we able to solve to the world's problem is that we are able to solve the problem that we have the hunger for the graphene material. Graphene is one of the most useful material in the world that they can apply into more than 10,800 applications into total products. So basically, why is it so high in demand? It's because they are able to be applied, for example, into aerospace industries, vehicles, because of their 5 main characteristics as well. Next, please. So our technology is that we are able to use one of the most abundant material in Malaysia, which is known as the palm. We are the second largest palm oil producer in the world, and we have a lot of palm kernel shell that's as a biomass, and we usually use it to make power generators to generate electricity. So we are able to make this into a single layer graphene that is being sold as one of the most expensive material in the world. Now, this single layer graphene is rated at more than 150 to 400 US dollar per gram. So we are able to create another high value of nation. Why? Because we are going to change this whole supply chain, including the whole palm oil industries, into another new era. Next, please. So actually, the graphite have three main resources. One is known as the mineral graphite. This is where they are not able to make high quality graphite due to the uncertainty, the impurities inside the raw material itself. And another way to produce single layer graphene is known as the coal base, or known as the petroleum base, which is actually a byproduct, and their market is quite volatile. So we do have another alternative, which is known as the biomass method. Of course, there are other biomass as well. Our technology, we use palm kernel shells to be able to produce single layer graphene. And the quality of our graphene that we are able to produce is exacting single layer graphene, has the strongest characteristics of the graphene. So the comparison between the mineral and artificial is basically we have our own advantages. We have the lower cost, since this one is one of the most abundant material in Malaysia. So we make palm kernel shell, make it into artificial graphite, and then into graphene. So if you want to have a look at a sample, we do have our booth there in front of the foyer area, the mezzanine area. So basically, we are able to change the whole Malaysian nation, the supply chain industry. For example, we can change the palm oil industry supply chain. And then the usage of this single layer graphene, they have a lot of applications as well. Next. Because they are able to exert this high electric conductivity, high thermal conductivity, high strength, high transparency level, and high specific surface area. So for example, if you want to use it for high specific surface area, we use it for batteries. Batteries, we are able to break through the current bottleneck of the battery's charging capacity. So our company already have some applications in terms of our battery applications with UTEM, and we are able to produce a battery which is even higher due to our graphene applications. So today, what are they not able to achieve to make graphene in mass production method is because this graphene itself is very, very expensive. So in order to make it for everyone to use it, we are able to offer our product, our single layer graphene at much affordable prices. It's about 1/10 of the market price. So we can make it, everyone can use it. We can let it apply to all the vehicles, all the buildings, all the circuitries, all the electric equipments. Next. So graphene is one of the most wonder material of the 21st century. It is known as the black gold and the king of the new materials. Compared to the same quality of the graphene, the price of the graphene that we are offering, which is actually about 80 to 90% lower than what is offering at the market price right now. And furthermore, we are able to offer our product quality, highest purity of graphene level ever. Next. So the graphene applications can cover more than 10,800 types of products. So this is the reason why today the graphene price is very high. So they can be used in high frequency transistors. We can make even higher heat dissipations, thin film transistors, medicals, DNA sequencing, supercapacitors, graphene batteries, and so on. Next. Feedstock, of course, Malaysia, we have one of the most abundant material in Malaysia. It's known as palm kernel shell. We are the second largest in the world. Thanks. So every 3 tons of dried palm kernel shells, we are able to make 1 ton of palm-based graphite. Of course, this one is an estimation. And or 1 ton of palm-based graphene. So theoretically, in Malaysia, we are producing at about 5 million tons of palm kernel shell. So we are able to produce 1 million tons of artificial graphite or graphene, theoretically. So with this, hopefully we can transform Malaysia to another even greater country. Next. Next. So this is how we make it. We use the dried palm kernel shell. We dry it, crush it. We go through another pyrolysis, and then we make it into an activated carbon. Of course, with our patent pending technology, we have our own formula. So we have to go through another graphitization process, which our graphitization rate is showing one of the industrial high level in terms of graphitization. So which is able to yield a very high percentage of the graphene. Next. So actually this market in terms of graphite is going to expand to about $27 billion by 2025. So Malaysia is actually one of the largest artificial graphite importing countries. So after GraphJet Technologies, our contribution to our nation, we hope that we can transform Malaysia to exporters of graphite. Next. Thank you. So in Wakanda, they have vibranium. In Malaysia, we have graphene. One is fantasy, and ours is reality. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jamil. Be careful, I'm an expert in graphene. So be careful what you say. I have a PhD in nanotech, and I did a lot of work with graphene. I can grill you on the stage. But nonetheless, another round of applause to all the panelists. You can see here, going through the presentation, starting with Mr. Kamaro, with Dr. Xiao, with Teku, with Dr. Harris, and Mr. Jiang Lim. You can see there's one common denominator that's across. Can you guess what it is? Talent, human capital. Before we started this session, we had a really rigorous and lively discussion in the room, the holding group. One thing that binds them together, which is people. So the underlying thematic issue here is always about people leading people. Technology is just a tool. End game, high-tech nation, high-income nation. Mr. Cameron mentioned about paradigm shift, which I'm going to start with him in the next question to give better insight on how he got to where he is now through his very interesting journey as such. So I will start with that. Mr. Kamaro, over to you. So you can see through your presentation, you have 35 literally footprints around the world. You started in Malaysia with 311, right? 3 people, one office, one man. Exactly, 311. And you had to make that boomerang effort to prove yourself overseas before coming to Malaysia. Can you share with us that journey, how you convince your team? When you expect from 3 to 1,000, how did the team in your journey become where you are and where you are?
It all started, first you have to
Nanti
build
ni apa pakai? Yang ni.
you must believe in what you're doing. Then you build people around you that believe in your cause as well. Right? Because you need to have a strong team in order to do this. If you don't have a strong team, you won't be able to carry your vision. Right? And then most importantly, we have this culture in our organization where failure is celebrated. Because I want people to innovate. I want people to have that mindset of trying new things constantly. So way back in 2018, we were the pioneer in having a platform for drone data. So we already deliver solutions for analytics for drone data. At that time, people were just, when you fly drone, whether you inspect power line or you do whatever, you just give data and then try to make sense of it, right? So in 2018, we already had that solution. Today is not boringly different. Today is all AI driven. It's not just getting drone data alone. We take data from satellite data, weather data. So now we do predictive and prescriptive analytics and so on. So there's always evolution that happens in terms of us pushing the limit. And really the key to that is to build a team that believes in your cause, a team that is always on its own, wanting to push the limit. So in our
How do you sell the idea?
How do I say the idea? Well, basically, I sell the idea of, hey, why don't, for a change, we make Malaysia as a tech, exporter. That was our initial background. How said we go? Look around us. Is there Vietnam? We are quite in 17, 18, 19, very little. You have all the GLCs and all that present globally. But in terms of us as a tech exporting nation, almost none. Right? So we look at what ourselves. Why don't we do something that is local? Why don't we do something that is applicable, that we can push to? So it is a very tough effort. We went to Australia. Fortunately, when we first went to Australia in February, we got a very good response, extremely good response. So that gave us encouragement. So since then, we started to go more. Then we went to Japan. Even Japan was very receptive to our technology as well. Then we went to Europe, then we went to America, and so on and so forth. So I think we were driven by that nation-building agenda. We also driven by the need of building a Malaysian technology that is applicable to them.
But sometimes people respond to that. Oh, this is rhetorics. This is leadership rhetorics about big picture, making bold statements. But to get the two by in, you need to walk the talk.
Absolutely.
So how do you walk the talk with your leadership members?
Well, today I still wake up every day at 4 a.m. I don't finish my work until 10 a.m. So we are a global organization. My wake up at 4 a.m. is for me to work with my American and North American, American and European office. So really, you need to set the tone for the team. And it's not really just about working hard, it's actually about building meaningful stuff. We are getting feedback from everyone. I'm getting a team to get involved in what we do. I think it's also very important to get everyone involved in your vision, to get them to believe. So in Aerodyne, we actually have a formula that talk about our aerodynamic. So that's one of them.
Share is your secret sauce.
Yeah, if you can put the last page earlier, then I can talk a little bit as well about that, right? My deck earlier, last page, that shows the formula, right? So that is really something that we come up together to bring in people to believe in our cause, right? And that is really about, number one, understanding what we deliver. What we deliver is really drone data, drone tech, data tech, and digital transformation. So having that is something that would inspire people to do. Because in order to deliver disruption in a company in America, for example, it's not easy. Right? This is our formula. So let me run through what this means. So alpha is our formula for value creation. Right? So again, this is something that we bring the t-shirt as well for all our team to wear as well, to remind everyone why we do this and how we do this. So DT3 is what we do, right? Growth tech, data tech, and digital transformation. WC4 is our world class. WC stands for world class. So we have 4 world class strategies, and this is the mindset shift that we wanted to do. What does it mean? DTR, do things right. DTRP, do the right thing. I mean, we don't have time to go into detail, but really this is about the framework of how we do this. And then SS is shape shifter. We need to change all the time. So that's why I talk about we encourage people to you fail, you are not penalized, you are celebrated for your failure. But you show that you have what it takes to experiment. Right? The last one. It's a bit of a long one, but the meaning is simple. No fuss, no drama, just do. This one. NFNJ. So we want to create a culture of making it easy because we are a solution provider as well. Right? Anyway, what I wanted to really talk about is the N. N is the power of small things, small change. You have a calculator, you can do this. 1.01, the power of 365, you get 37. Which means that if you just do 1% improvement per day, you can get 37 times better by the end. Right? So that is the kind of thing, the philosophy that we put in the organization. Of course, P3 is people, planet and profit. So you have to do this in a sustainable way. So this is the formula for our mindset shift. It would be different for others, but it's the formula that works in our organization.
Thank you for that. Just a bit more for you to expand. People planet profit used to be the end game. This brings back to our earlier point right before we start this forum. That's the whole idea. Tech is just a tool, but we need tech. We need to be savvy in tech. We need to master tech. We need to be in control of what we develop. Not forgetting others though. Sometimes we need to go build some by some. There's no way Malaysia can do it. We have capability, yes. We have capacity, yes. But we cannot do everything, right? But at the end of the day, it's about making the people happy, making the planet sustainable, and of course, making money along the way. It's all about making sure everyone is empowered socially and economically. Great, thank you so much for that insight. But I like the word N, small things, because I'm the Nano sphere. Every little small thing really counts. So thank you for that validation of my existence. So then I would like to move on to Dr. Fairuz. You mentioned earlier on about AI, right? AI is great. In fact, later this afternoon we'll be launching an AI roadmap as such. But AI is often seen to be something which can be fearful. We talk about general AI, we talk about specific AI. And earlier on, we had a very rigorous discussion in the holding room about ASI, artificial sentient intelligence. So the fear is, you remember the movie Terminator, doomsday scenario, AI taking over and whatnot. So how do you educate, elucidate, and at the same time allaying fears amongst the public domain for them to embrace AI to be part and parcel of their daily life so that we can make that quantum leap, literally, to become better society.
Okay, so to answer your question, I think the Terminator will come in not in the near future, but 20, 30, 30 to 40 years later. Because
it will come, it will happen now.
it will happen.
Okay.
Because now AI is learning by themselves. Usually, like if you want to have the machine learning by themselves, then you need to code something. But now you don't need to code something, the machine will learn by yourself. And they are putting emotion, they are actually, if you know the Google, okay Google, Siri and everything, when we talk to them, it's like talking to a human. So it's going to come through. But don't be afraid of AI. So that's the most important thing. AI is not a monster. AI actually, if we do it for good, we get it good. So, you know, like everything comes from data. So without data, there's no AI also. So if you give the garbage in, then you will get the garbage out. So that's why if you are having, that's why I think our national AI roadmap that we crafted together, that is leading by Prof. Ross actually. So it was like, it's a very nice roadmap that actually giving a very nice ecosystem for our country. So I really like the way that we need to protect AI, we need to have the responsible AI, and then we also need to have a very good data governance so that we can have a very better nation that we are not going to build a garbage or the bad AI. So that's my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. But also touching to your other presentation with regards to inclusivity. So you come from the angle or perspective in terms of empowering women, getting women involved in this particular space. And you also have experience in blockchain. But before I go to that topic about establishing the equality of women, you mentioned women are fragile. I beg to differ. Women are very strong. And another point which we also had our pre-discussion in the holding group is sometimes you have to look at it from a neutral point of view. It's what you bring to the table. You can be men, women, or anything in between, depends on where you come from. But the thing is, only is what you bring to the table. But how do you get women up to that level? We know for a fact that it is an unfair race, correct? All the women here, right? Women are being, you have an expectation of women becoming mothers, you have responsibility for. At the same time, you are in the same race to become just as good or even better than men. So how is the mechanism for you to address that gap, to get women very central in your particular field of work?
Okay, so that's why we have the diversity, equity, and inclusion. So inclusion, diversity without inclusion is nothing. Like you have a very big group that is has a very diverse members. You have a lot of races, a lot of gender. When we're talking about diversity, it's not always about female. It's about everything. Something that you can see at the front, something that you cannot see, like their political thinking or whatsoever, and their culture and everything. Like for me, it's very obvious for me that I am a female and I'm a Muslim because I read that stuff. But then if you are just like you are looking at a Chinese look, but then you are actually a Malay, so people didn't know. So that's why diversity is important. We have a very diverse team, but we also need to be included. To be included means like when you come to a party, you are not just coming, but you are also asked to be dance to the party. And then the next thing we have the equity, which is that's why female as a mother, we have the work at home. We also to have a work at the office. So we are not going to give the same thing to the male colleague to the same thing to the female colleague because it should be equity. It should be not really the same level, but giving it to the right place. So that's why for female, I think because actually I worked in Japan before. What we have in Japan is actually we have the shortened working life, working days, which is working time, which is usually people will have like finish at 6 p.m. But because we need to fetch our children, so we can finish at 4 p.m. And the next thing is the work from home policy. And then there's a lot of things that, and then like the best thing is what we have in Japan is we have about 1 year of maternity leave, but we don't have it in Malaysia. So that's why actually giving the right support to the female is a very good thing to do. And it should be the diversity, equity, and inclusion. It shouldn't be only diversity. We shouldn't talk about just inclusive AI means of the gender and inclusive, but it should be all inclusive regardless of who you are.
Thank you so much. But the last point before I release you and jump to another analyst. With regards to the concept of AI, because AI you mentioned about garbage in, garbage out. Right? So AI is only as good as the creator, the designer, and how much data you push into the system.
So this is a very interesting question. Because actually you can do it in a very low data, you can do it in a very medium data, and a very high data. For me as an engineer, as a data scientist, a data science people, I don't really like low data, I don't really like huge data. For me, data that is like capable to work enough is very good. So when we selected which data to be fed into our machinery, which is our AI models, what we did is usually we are going to find the best feature. This is what we call as feature engineering. So that's where we get the very good data to build our model. So if you want to have a model that can recognize the female and males in Malaysia, so we should have a female pictures that wearing scarf as well. We shouldn't use the European female
This
pictures.
is what you talk about biasness.
Yes, not really. Yeah, it's biasness.
Because what happened in the past, when you have a driverless car, they start hitting on so-called non-white individuals, right? Because the data is being fed into the system is based on white individual crossing roads and become pedestrian. So when you have non-whites being simulated in the real world, the car can recognize them as individual people.
Because it become like a black hole, maybe.
Exactly.
So that's why we need to have like a very good data to begin with. So that's why the autonomous driving in Malaysia also, we just want, if you want to buy the autonomous car, don't buy it in the country from the US continent or in the Japan continent. Just buy it from a country that have the similar behavior of driving like Malaysia. Or else you cannot ride in the Malaysian road.
One last question. You mentioned about gender inclusivity, but do you think that AI will be in some gender form? Female AI, male AI, or everything in between?
It's not going to be in gender form. So usually when we build a model, there will be multiple models that will create one model. So that's why it's not going to be gender form at all, but we use the model according to where we want it to be. So like if you want to implement it in Malaysia, then it should be a model for Malaysia. But if you want to implement it into the other continent, it should be another continent. So usually it's going to be suitable to which part we want to put it.
I shall release with that. Now, moving on to Tengku. You're a fresh of breath air too, because I can see that this vigor, exuberant, coming from Syria Burhan in the form of yourself. So you earlier on touched on this concept of democratization of technology, which you mentioned quite briefly that it will ruffle some feathers, you will rattle some cages, and you will shake a lot of our father's nest right along the way. And because a lot of people won't be happy when you decentralize, democratize, as such. How do you maneuver that under the framework of regulation, framework, certain acts, certain bits of regulation, to achieve that utopian concept that equitable distribution of technology should be the way of the future?
Right. I should touch about genuine leadership. So a lot of people thinking that if you are a manager, a boss, and that's it. It's actually not true. In any organization, you need leaders. And when I say leaders, it's not like you need to hold a position, certain position, then you become leaders. So leadership is actually needs to be taught to every level. So how we maneuver things is you need to be really hands-on, go to the ground and ask what they need. Instead of asking what is it for me, so you need to really exercise the genuine leadership. Go to the ground and understand what's happening on the ground. And then have a think tarik, for God's sake, with the people, right? So at least you know what's exactly their pain points. And these pain points is actually maneuver from bottom to top. So if you don't understand what's the bottom and we are talking only at the top, you can't actually resolve a lot of things. And resolving a lot of things meaning the 1 times 1/4 of n 30 something, just say a power of n. Yeah. So it's all about that. It's a micro improvement in little things.
Nano improvement. Nano improvement.
Nano improvement. Nano improvement. So this upsells the one, and nano vision. Okay, so nano improvement. So when the people doesn't want to see, I mean the employee doesn't want to see only the big stuff because they cannot relate. For example, if we say that, oh, we want to fly to the moon, they cannot relate. So what is it for me? What is it I'm going to do in order for me to fly to the moon? So this is where you need to go to the ground. So one of the way is how we're going to do that in a fun way. We introduce that series hack. You know, we get people to resolve what their problem statement. They come up with their problem statement. They identify the pain points, and we give some support and say that you can resolve this way, you can resolve that way. And then they empowered to do a lot of things. So that's what we did.
Now we touching on, of course, I'm not letting you go just yet. Recently, we faced this issue about food security, right? Chickens and whatnot. And energy security became almost an issue, when Indonesia almost stopped the exportation of coal to the country. Water security has also been talked about for quite some time. So the word democratization, decentralization, because all of these pillars are controlled by a certain authorities or entities in Malaysia. They can GLC, they can be private sector, and whatnot. So once you go into the decentralized mode, you empower each individual, each citizens to produce their own water. Catch water from the ground, extract water from the ground, harvest from rainfall, purify, use. Solar panel, generate electricity, store in a battery, use. Last but not least, urban farming. Right? Decentralize, grow your own food, feed, that's it. That would disrupt the so-called economy. So what would be the point of view with regards to serious or genetically for Malaysia? How we are going to adopt that so-called decentralized economy model to ensure sustainability of supply chain, so that at baseline, all rakyat will be very happy. They are self-dependent, or we say independent when it comes to food, water, and energy.
Wow, this is a huge topic. Okay, we start with the climate change. We can't control that right now. So we start with the climate change, and this is where a lot of people trying to resolve, and no one can resolve it anyway. Not yet, yeah, not yet. So they talk about energy management, they talk about food security, they talk about how we're going to do a lot of things. This is where democratize of the society needs to understand that in the future, we might need to survive on our own. Yeah. So in Syria, we have desalination of water from a technology that can have fresh water from ocean, salt water. We have technology on photovoltaic for solar panel as well. We have our scientists and working with the universities as well in terms of having agriculture, vertical farming, and all those things. So all of this is actually in Malaysia. We already have that. But we never actually think about how to democratize that. We always have companies or organizations to adopt in a big way. So we back to that. I like that one power of N. I like that because it's all about the basis of democratization. So why don't we start it small? Why don't we empower people to do that? Why don't we democratize the technology? So instead of resolving big, huge things, why don't we solve small pockets in smaller regions and smaller places? Then accumulative, we can actually resolve a lot of things. So that's my thing.
Next, thank you. I'll come back to you. Not letting you go easily. Next, with Dr. Xiao. Okay? I've been having this burning question with regards to, especially when surgery is being done by robots, right? I guess at this point of time, based on your presentation, this robot assistant, right?
Yes.
The one in control is still the medical doctors. Right?
Yes.
They're the one with the brains, they're the one understanding the much needed precision and such. But before that happened, you mentioned which you took from Encik Amaro's presentation. The first few surgeries, the first few operations you've done, how do you get people to jump onto the bandwagon to believe, I think I will take this risk and allow a machine to assist the doctor whom I have affinity to conduct those so-called risky operations. How do you get that?
Yeah, actually, this is a very good question. Healthcare industry is always about the people. It's very different from other industry. That's because we always have a physical touch or human to human interactions during the whole consultations, treatment, or even surgery for the patients. Just put yourself as a patient, and then you just think that okay, the robot is going to cut on my knee, cut on my hip, even in my intestine, the colon. Whether I can believe it or not, whether I can trust it or not, this is something very challenging. I would say that the first step we need to do actually is to convince our surgeon. This is something very important. Because as a surgeon, as a doctors, sometimes we have confidence on ourselves, and then we are not easily being convinced by certain new technology. So the first step actually very important to convince the doctors. So the doctors always believe in science. So that's why you need to convince them using the data, using the evidence, which I think easily available now. I think in the internet, with the data, with the results, and then you need to get the buy-in from the surgeon. After you get the buy-in from the surgeon, and then the surgeon can help to convince the patient to do the surgeries on the robots. I think it's something very important. Because I think nowadays in Malaysia here, the patients still trust what the consultants or what the surgeons suggested to them. So the first step, you get the surgeons to buy in. At the end, will be much easier with the patients to follow.
Thank you so much. One question following up to that. So when you are able to convince, it's great, right? But at this point in time, you apply those robots, but it is procured, right? It's procured. It goes back to the earlier underpinning philosophy when we have roadmaps. In Malaysia, we have technological aspiration for us to own something, equitable ownership of technology. So right now, Sunway is looking into more of owning it via procurement. Right?
Yeah.
What is Sunway's appetite towards homegrown, home designed robots for you to adopt into your system so you can be so-called a shining beacon of local adopter, of local innovation? Is there a roadmap? Is there an appetite towards that? Because that is what most startups, local SMEs, badly need. Because we want to have local adoption as a proof or validation before they can go abroad. So please comment on that.
Yes, I think definitely. I think for Sunway Medical Center, because our chairman is a very far-sighted leaders, I think, in the industry. So we always treat ourselves as a loss leader in certain areas. I always describe the healthcare industry as a pyramid. The bottom is always the bread and butter cases, the general cases. But as a $250,000 hospital, we need some innovation. Yeah, so that we can develop the system by ourselves. So the buy-in, again, is about the human resources, about the surgeons. So the more resources, the more experience they accumulated throughout the treatment, throughout the wards, we can share with our vendors. Now, I think actually we collaborate very closely with our vendors and then to modify the system we adopted from the Western countries. At the end, we were to adopt all these ideas because the demographic in the Asia is totally different from the Western countries. Yeah, so that's why we need to adopt these new things into our applications. Example, I think a few months ago, there was a company from the Western country came to us, actually to introduce the contactless and vital signs checkup for the patients. Actually, I just shared with the vendors. Actually, this application, it doesn't apply to the Asian country because the philosophy or the idea behind actually is more on the demographic for the Western country. So that's why now we are collaborating with them, okay, to do some experiments on our own patients here, and then we can come up with a system that can be adopted to all the Asian countries. This is what we are doing.
So definitely Sunway is open to become a platform which maybe Malaysia cannot do all components in the robotics sector. But if we can do more localized certain components, so we can play into the field adopted by, for example, Sunway Medical, validate, then we can export.
Yes.
Then we go towards where we want to be. High technician, importer, also exporter technologies.
Yes.
I'm glad that you gave a very positive response to that. Thank you so much. Next will be my target. Over there, Mr. Graphene. Because it's one of my favorite subjects. Because we've been developing the graphene ecosystem for some time since 2014. And with GraphJet coming into the picture and understanding, although it is new, but it has been around for quite some time because the Nobel Prize was given to two research scientists in 2010. It was discovered in 2004, as such. So being the new kid on the block, literally, how do you see yourself in competing with this from China? Because they produce 2/3 of the graphene supply in the world. How do you position yourself to become competitive so that Malaysia can become, that's how you said it, there's long-term aspiration to become high-tech nation, and we're able to leverage our local biomass and having the unique value proposition that makes GraphJet something that we can be proud of.
Yes, that's a very good question. Actually, the world supplier in terms of the graphite is actually supplied by China. It takes about so I think for our company, actually, we are giving another alternative options for the world suppliers. So they can source for another option, not just from China. They can source from Malaysia. And from our company's perspective, we are able to provide our quality at a higher level, higher purity of single layer graphene. So in terms of applications, they are able to achieve even higher standards of their applications as well. For example, if they want to improve in terms of their batteries applications for EVs, for bikes, for trikes, and so on, they can look for alternative for source for even higher quality of graphite or graphene to apply on their products as well to improve their product qualities, performance, and so on. Yeah. So in terms of the world, I think they will have another alternative in terms of, let's say, for example, recently we have a Ukraine and Russia war, and we see a very high spike in terms of the artificial graphite price has been increased, I think, about 2 to 3-fold. And I think from our company's perspective, it is a very good opportunity for us to grow in a time like this. Yes.
I think your business value is also underpinned by the fact that you are participating in the circular economy, right? So what seems to be a waste from the palm oil industry, you are able to extract that waste, make it something useful, convert it into graphene, high value application, you're able to sprawl into various downstream applications. You mentioned about batteries, you mentioned about composites and whatnot, right?
Yes. So compared to how they produce in China, the most of the materials that they use are actually from mineral or from by mining or from petroleum base, which is a byproduct of their own industries. So in terms of the supply chains, they could not get a very consistent quality. But in terms of biomass, it's all the same. So it's biomass, mass is mass, plant is plant, nothing different there. So basically, if we purify, we clean enough, we can turn it into carbon at a very high purity content. That's what our special about. That's what we unique. So we are able to make even higher performance, even better than our competitor does. Yes.
You mentioned briefly that your first plant will be located in Sarawak. Any advantages of having it in Sarawak first? Why not other states? Why not in Semenanjung?
Actually, we have 2 places in our mind. The first is the Sarawak, and the second is Kuantan. So the main is the Sarawak is because we use a lot of energy to convert, to heat it up. Basically, we use a pyrolysis, another graphitization process, which takes about 3,000 Celsius to heat it up. So we require a lot of power for that. Right? And Sarawak has one of the most abundant in terms of their energy supply as well. They got one of the cheapest electrical rate.
Maybe something for us to learn, especially in the Semenanjung area, the states, how we can provide some cheaper electricity or any source to facilitate people like you who is very energy intensive to convert biomass into advanced material, which is graphene. In fact, if you go outside there, one of the key pillars of the advanced material roadmap is graphene, one of the priority areas. So you are in the right country, right place, right time for us to facilitate, and we have also the ecosystem for us to push so that we are able to achieve what we need to achieve, i.e. become high tech nation, high income nation, so on and so forth. So good work. Yeah?
I think by coming into the right time, I think this is a very one of the most important thing. Like many years ago, Bill Gates, they did have a tablet that came out before iPad. That actually the product that didn't come out at the right time. And until today, we have an iPad that came out at the right time, touchscreen and everything. So I think being the right time is one of the most important characteristic. You have to be at the right time, you know. Not even just in terms of business perspective, in terms of when you meet your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, has to be at the right time, right?
Timing is very important. I remember 5 years ago, 6 years ago, even 2013, even we take an example of Elon Musk, when he launched Tesla, it wasn't really the right time. We also had ambition in Malaysia way back to establish the electrical vehicle industry. It wasn't the right time. The mood wasn't there, the appetite wasn't there. We only came to be maybe 3-4 years ago, but technological investment require persistence, belief, just like you said, long term, beyond the horizon. Because you know for a fact, when you understand the curve of technology adoption, it will happen. The last thing you want to do is, looking back, when it actually happened, you look back with regret. Why I did not invest that 10 years ago? Because it's happening now. So I think that is very important for all of us lesson to be learned. Technological investment, yes, high risk, but it needs to happen so that in 10 years down the road, you're able to basically reap what you sow, the benefits of your investment. Which are going to touch on investment? Maybe you have something to comment.
In terms of investments, I think our company, our Malaysia is one of the greatest country in terms of getting this investments to attract this FDI. Yes, and not just that, I think I want to open up a topic which is known as the mindset. Like Doctor, you said that everything, when you look back, we all regret. So it's all because of when we see one thing that will probably happen. So it might happen. So if you see one thing that will not happen, it will not happen for sure. So in order to transform our Malaysian, as a Malaysian, Anak Malaysia, to become one of the greatest countries, it's all start with mind. It's all our mind we decide on our action. And our action, we all decide what results most. So it comes deep down to the root of our culture.
Sometimes I wish that positive mind, of course, will create positive outcome. I wish the positive mind can also create money. The money appears out of nowhere, right? Maybe, yeah. But I want Cik Kamal to comment on that. When it comes to investment, because you went through quite a journey, right? 311, 1,000, usually it takes about 30 employees or whatnot. But getting the right investors, getting the right investment fund to where you are now, I think it's quite an interesting story to be told. Can you share with us?
Sure. Fortunately for us, we did not have much of an issue raising fund. We were profitable from day one, to be honest. We were paying taxes for the first 4 years of our operation. We started taking investment only after we found an opportunity for us to go beyond. So in fact, we were turning down our investors at that time. If people were forgiving us at that time, So anyway, on the same topic, in terms of investment, we talk a lot about the importance of getting funding, and I have no hesitant in saying this is what we must have in Malaysia for us to grow the ecosystem. And because the reality is, it is not that easy to get money. I mean, I always do get fellow entrepreneurs that come and talk to me about the kind of that cry for help. And why not? I mean, if you were to look at the tech ecosystem, ultimately only 4% of any tech company would actually survive after 5 years. Only 4%. I mean, that's what the statistics actually say. So what it means is that it requires a lot of almost, I would say, adventure investment. It's almost like spray and pray. You would not need to expect every single one to be successful, because the 4% that is successful will actually make all the whole investment worthwhile. So we need to have that kind of appetite in terms of investing for the tech industry, and it is very much important for the future of the country. Because even though we are talking about, we have all of this fun, the country floating around and all that, but the reality is, to be honest, it's not enough. When I look at it, We need to make it easy. We need to make it easy. I understand the difficulties because one of the things that I myself experienced with some of the tech entrepreneurs is that we do not have that financial literacy. That's why it's actually very difficult to invest in that stuff. There will be a lot of abuse and all that, right? So maybe that's the part where education is also very important. If we have that financial literacy, sorry, I was talking about that, this financial literacy. We need to have financial literacy as well. So oftentimes, I do see a lot of investment in Malaysia in terms of grant and all that. It's there. There's a lot of it there. But I know it's difficult because historically there's a lot of abuse and all that. But this is something that we need to rethink as well. I give you a case in point. In December last year, at the end of the year, a lot of people, a lot of friends in the ecosystem, they look at me as the abandoned company. So people will come to me asking for help. If I don't, if I'm not able to spend before December, my grant will disappear. I won't be able to get this money, right? So when I look at this, I think this is almost a funding pandemic in Malaysia because I see this issue everywhere. So how can we change this? I think the key thing here is also to look at the big picture, make a decision that is long-term. Education is also very important. Maybe as part of the process, give them that financial literacy. Give them that assistance. But to have faith and belief in these technologies will actually help transform the country into high technology. But there's only one side of the coin. We talk about this in the room earlier, right? A lot of the time we talk about funding. But we also need to have ecosystem that is supportive for growth to the ecosystem, and that is adoption. So we do not need GLC crowding the space. We need GLC, for example, to adopt these technologies. We need government, because government are always the biggest spender in any country. Any country, the biggest contract order will always come from the government. So government needs to believe in the local. Believe in them, give them that chance, give them the opportunity. You look at what happened to the chaebols of Korea. They all become big because the country take a bet on them. Not all of them are successful. Remember, only 4% believe in our local. I know this takes a lot of mindset shift to invest in something that will fail, but ultimately, remember, only 4%. Right? You only need that 4% to be successful. It's enough to cover the 96%. So I think that the angle that we should be looking at.
So the paradigm shift here is also not because the entrepreneurs are always hungry, scientists are always hungry. They want to be acknowledged based on their technological achievement. Entrepreneur, their commercial achievements or accomplishments. At the same time, there is a gap. Investors in Malaysia need to take the risk. VC need to act like venture capitalists. If you look into Silicon Valley and whatnot, they actually hunt for technology. Malaysia, the technology becomes beggar. They knock on doors, every single door. And sometimes they knock on the wrong door, and they get rejected more often than they get accepted. So we need to have that socialization of the risk, opportunities with investors, investment bankers, VCs, angel investors, and whatnot. They need to understand the potential returns, the risk that associated with it, and look into the bigger future. Like you said, 4%, right?
Anyway, on this, as you mentioned just now, and this is actually something that we really need to address because we want to be a high-tech nation, which means that we need to be producing technology that is global in nature, globally competitive. But if you're going to look at the funding ecosystem globally, even if I were to take ourselves as a youngster, right? We have 1,000 people, we are globally as well and all that. But the valuation of another company similar to us in America, for example, would be able to get a much higher valuation, right? When you have high valuation, you can raise significant amount of money. When you can raise significant amount of money, you can invest in the best people in the industry, right? So what will happen? Then at the end of the day, they will be able to actually deliver better technology. They can hire the best talent. So this is a catch-22 situation. We need to make that leap of faith today. We need to support technology. It's not about everybody. This is about the tech ecosystem in Malaysia. We need to get that leap of faith into them. Believe in them. Give them the ability to raise big money because you have to have money to make money. not free money. We're not talking. I'm not talking about crime. If they don't deliver, there has to be some penalization as well, especially if it is negligence and all that. We need to have that mechanism. But the key thing here is actually to believe and to take that leap.
Thank you. Going back to Dr. Xiao, I know you don't represent the whole Sunway Group. I know for a fact there is a development in the Sunway Group when you set up this Sunway Venture.
Yeah.
Which also, in a way, the group somehow taking a step into this high-risk area, investing in startups, investing in this high-risk portfolio, especially in technology sectors. So, will Sunway as a group follow the footsteps of the behavior of the bigger companies in America or Europe or not, to really assist local SMEs, local startups through strategic partnership, so that we're able to literally homegrown local ideas, local innovation, and assist government institutions to becoming better.
Yes. Actually, our chairman, Mr. Jeffrey Shah, is very passionate about two things now. One is the educations, another one is about the healthcare. So I think under the Sunway Group, of course, I can't represent the whole Sunway Group as of today. And then we have set up what I call it Sunway I Lab. It's an innovation lab. Okay, so that's why for this lab, actually now they are collaborating with quite numbers of SMEs to look into all the potential applications in the industry, which we can try to map it and then try to commercialize it and then try to apply it in different industry. This is what the Sunway Group is doing now. So like for the education, just like Kamaru mentioned very clearly, I think 70% of our population is only SPM, right? But I think for the Sunway Group, actually we also emphasize a lot on the educations. So that's why we focus on the innovations and then also the creativity of the students, I think, in Sunway Group. So that's why for the role of the Sunway iLab actually is to collaborate with all the SME, as I mentioned by our moderator just now, okay, to look into all the potential applications which we can use in the industry.
Thank you so much. I think to allow for democratization and decentralization of the forum, I would like to get audience to be involved. I think it's only fair for the burning questions through these multiple discourses of ideas to get the audience on the floor to be involved. So I would like to open the floor and hopefully, yeah, we have one over there, please. Microphone over.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Mukris and I am a student representative council from the University of Putra Malaysia. Today I have one grave question that I want to ask directed towards either Dr. Fairaza or Mr. Kamaru. As of today, we see that data is a very profitable source of technology. And due to its profitability, it attracts a lot of greed. And nowadays, if we look into the news, we can see a lot of implications of misuse of data. Recently, we see from the Twitter of our Prime Minister, he has lost access to his Telegram and also Signal account. And this to me is a very alarming issue as it might lead to an national security issue. Other than that, we can also see that our citizens are facing a rise in scam issues. People calling us out of nowhere and trying to socially convince us to give them their money. So, from the representatives of SMEs and corporate sectors, do you think there is any framework or systemic approach that we can apply to the data industry so that we can curb these issues? That's all from me.
This is a very interesting question on data privacy, I think. So, okay, basically, we as a data scientist or AI engineer, we have our own integrity. We never need the data. But actually, a few years back until now, there is a research called federated learning actually, where actually, before this, you need to do the data that you have in the smartphone whatsoever will be sent to a database. And then from that database, the AI engineer or data scientist will crawl through it and use anything for that. But in federated learning, actually, you are going to train the model. It's like you're going to build the AI inside your own smartphone without bring out the data outside of your smartphone. So it's much more private. So basically, this is one of the research topics that are going through all over the world, federated learning, responsible AI ethics. So there's no perfect thing in the world, first of all. But then we will try to achieve the perfectness. We try to make sure that our data is secure enough. So besides federated learning, also we have the blockchain technology, which is like the data never going to be tampered by using blockchain. So this is all of the measures that are being taken by the industries, by the researchers to make sure that our data is private enough and then only certain people can access to our data. So that's the answer.
Right. So you have already mentioned that one. Let me add a little bit. So you're very right. We should be scared of that risk. But we have a bigger problem that we should be scared about instead of the enterprise. And that's the risk of being left behind. Because singularity is not far. Singularity, some say 5 years, some say 10 years. But singularity. It's a moment in the near future where technology, the AI, the machine, the quantum computing will be better than the collective intelligence of mankind. So we should be worried about that. So how do we solve that risk? By actually being a nation of intelligence, by making sure that we are actually on top of it. You know, some studies that say it, right? We are talking about singularity soon. Right now, whatever AI that we have today is actually narrow intelligence. Whatever AI that we have is actually a one vertical, right? Soon we will have artificial general intelligence. This could just be 5, 10 years ago. Some say 5, some say 10 years because of the advent of quantum computing. So when you have artificial general intelligence, this is when, if we do not have mastery over technology, we might well. And after that, then you will have artificial super intelligence. And I'm just going to close on that one. How does that look like? In medical field, in about 30, 40 years right now, your feet is no longer working, you can slot in a Honda that can allow you to run faster. You can have artificial lungs that will give you. But beyond that, this is what scientists are already working on today. How do you transfer your consciousness? That is already something that is happening right now. And if we are not in this, where we will be as a nation?
I would like to add from the perspective of IT perspective. There is a cyber security issues that we highlighted here as well. So we need a responsible company that really look into the cybersecurity side when it comes to the data that they actually retain for the customers and the retainer of the information that we have. So we need to have a responsible company that really look into cybersecurity. A lot of company does not actually invest in this enough. That's one. Another thing is the user themselves. They need to really not so anjong when to click. There is a discount, free durian, free kenta, and everything. Yeah, because the scammers are really cunning and slick. They know how to manipulate all of the technologies as well. So there's a two kind of perspective that I would like to bring on the table.
If I may add, I think from the healthcare industry, as you know, the healthcare, especially the hospital, whatever, is a very conservative industry, I would say, because it's about the people's life. But without the data, if we are too careful about the data, the security, whatever, and then we refrain ourselves of moving forward, at the end, you will see all these technologies, even in the healthcare industry. Just how I mentioned, the Da Vinci, the robotic surgeries, we will see it if we are too careful about all these things. We must have the courage to take on the challenge, and then in the meantime, of course, we need to set some safety, safeguard the whole system. I think our mindset need to change a bit on this.
You?
I think it all boils down to human behavior. I think it's all about all this data thing. They are all is a tool for us to carry out what we want to do. So in terms of all this, in order to tackle all these problematics like scams and all this, it all comes out of human behavior. It all comes down to our educations and how we bring up. I think that is just a tool to make things faster, to foster the thing, but it doesn't help. It doesn't destroy it anymore. That is part of the process, but the result is all come from our mindset. It's all come from our education.
We have room for 2 more questions. Anyone willing to stand up? Over to you.
Hello. Right. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, I think. Well, I agree with the moderator. Actually, AI is not a rocket science. I mean, like what Mr. Kamarul mentioned just now, there are things that we need to address, like people and talents. But there's another issue which is, I think, is very important to highlight is trust. Because now, how do you encourage innovation when you penalize people for failure? I mean, for example, we send people for PhD, and if you don't finish your PhD, you have to pay back. I mean, like, I know it is people's money, but these people are also our people, right? So how do you encourage people for innovation if we penalize people for failure? And based on statistics, I think only 1 out of 10 innovation is success. The rest of 9 is rubbish, right? So yeah. So I mean, like, what is the comment from the panel? How do we create the ecosystem? For example, now undergraduate students, they don't have trust. They have trust issues with our education because they said it's a scam. Because they cannot get a job. High income people, high income, high tech nation with high income people, whereas we cannot offer them the good job, a decent job after they graduating. So trust issues, talent issues, I think is very important to discuss. So what are the comments from the panel?
Yeah, very valid concept. You know, it resonates very well to me as well. But I think again, it's the responsibility of each and every single one of us in this room to make this change. You know, maybe change can start with this. You know, everyone in this room can start encouraging innovation by saying you're not going to be penalized. Your KPI is actually how many experiments you make, how many ideas that you actually come up. It's not about failures. Maybe you can start with this, right? Because that's actually what the idea of innovation is all about. We need to make thousands of mistakes before we come one. And then someone here mentioned already about time as well. You know, timing is very important. In 2003, I came up with the idea of YouTube before YouTube even existed. You know, and I was in Malaysia, right place, right time. But if that idea, if I started that in Silicon Valley, I probably would have used it. Right? So that's again, it's very right. It's right time, right place. So let's inculcate that. I think it starts with each and every single one of us.
Let me comment on this. So actually, for me, we have like one problem in Japanese which we call as Paiwaseko. It's like the failure is the root of success. I think we also have it in Malay and also English. Wait, I'm sorry, I don't really remember that. So it means like, for me, in Japan culture, when we do our research, we always fail. It's just like, it's a normal failure, and we learn from our mistake. That's the most important. So that's why I know like people are talking about our current education system is like a scam, people cannot get a decent job. But then you start from the very bottom, learn through way, go up, and finally you will achieve something that you want. So whenever I give a talk on how to become a data scientist, people will always look at me in the money term. I want a very good salary, that's why I want to become a data scientist. For me, that's not the reason. The reason should be your passion. And then the education itself is where you build your own persistence on to become a more successful person. That's the core.
So when I was working in one of the multinational company, I got a shock when one of the top HR managers told me that there's no way we're going to give you a lifetime employment. So there's a lot of mindset change during that time, because when you set something for a lifetime employment, you cannot get anywhere. So we have to change into a lifetime employability, whereby you need to learn about how to make yourself employability. For example, not necessarily you have a degree in real estate management or estate management. You become a real estate negotiator or becoming a guru in developing all these big buildings and all. You might have to make sure that because of the employability, you need to learn about graphic designer and then now become web designer and then make money out of YouTube influencer. I'm not bitching about anybody else, but that's how my son become. So he was like estate management, then he become a YouTube influencer, modified my need. Okay, so that's how he make himself employability. So that's where we need to be calculated as well. How we want to make our people or our students to be employability, so they can get a lot of skills and
I think we have reached the end of our session. It's been a very interesting 2 hours. I would like to summarize what we have expounded on. I guess we're standing between you and lunch. All of you are hungry, so apologize. Please we are offering our apology for taking this a bit too long. But nonetheless, I think what cuts across between all 5 panels, including myself, will be when I first make an open statement with regards to the session we haven't, right? Technology is as good as talent, T&D. Because I use the analogy. Way back in the late 90s, early 2000, we had Schumacher versus Hakkinen. Ferrari had an inferior car. But because Schumacher was a superior driver compared to Hakkinen, he was winning. So the car can be as fast as can be. If there's no driver driving it, if you stay stationary, you'll be nowhere. So human capital development, putting the right people at the right place will make things happen. So we have people like Kamarun of Malaysia, Tengku, Kairos, and Jiang, right place, right time, so they're able to expand their vision to make things happen. But at the same time, the ecosystem needs to be conducive for it to work on. We look at, for example, the Singapore journey, go out and come back in. So that's where a big gap in Malaysia. There needs to be active adoption of local technology. We need to truly believe in what we do, what we create. I know big companies, they like to procure because they like to make that fast track leap into technological equity. But you must have put some allowance to ensure that local innovation has a place in Malaysia. Because Malaysia is our own sandbox. It needs to be tested and validated here. So these guys over here are able to export out the technology, aligning to what are the key aspirations of being a high-tech nation, exporter of technology. Malaysia being 30 million population, too small to compete against Indonesia, let alone China. We cannot compete in becoming the biggest market in the world. What we can compete is the biggest brains, the biggest IP markets. We can aggregate intellectual properties. We can sell those, export out. We cannot be the biggest manufacturer in the world, but we can export our technology, be part of the value chain, that we can become champion in certain things. So that brings out into our investment strategy as well. VCs, investment bankers, the sovereign wealth fund needs to understand technological investment is an endurance, it's a marathon. And there is a risk, 4%, 1 out of 10. You need to recognize that. As Kamarul mentioned, the one return investment over 10 will cover the initial investment. Having that understanding is very important to reduce the gap, to to make sure that Malaysia will become a high-tech nation, but at the same time, we are able to say we have technology sovereignty, which is important. And from that technology, we are able to build economic value, achieving what is good for the country in terms of people, the rakyat, planet in terms of sustainability, to battle climate change. Last but not least, we make money along the way. So we become a super nation, inshallah, in the very near future. So with that, I close this forum. Thank you for your participation and attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you to Dr. Rizal for the lovely speakers for that fruitful session. It was indeed an eye-opener for most of us, especially in our journey towards a high-tech nation. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite Puan Nordina binti Idris, the Undersecretary of Strategic Technology and SNT Application Division, mostly, to the stage to present the token of appreciation to our moderator and speakers. We would like to invite Dr. Rizal Khairi Ahmad, the CEO of Nano Malaysia Berhad, also our moderator of the day. Round of applause, Dr. Rizal. Mr. Kamarul A. Muhammad from the Aerodyne Group. Dr. Xiao Wei Ken from the Sunway Medical Center. Technologist Tengku Intan Narkiah Tengku Osman from the Sirim Berhad. Dr. Fairoza Amira binti Hamzah, the Woman in AI Ambassador of Malaysia. And last but not least, Mr. Jiang Lim from the GraphJet Technology Singapore. We would like to request Padina and moderators and speakers for a conversation on the stage, please.